Welcome, Amakhosi Network. Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm going to talk about a very important point. That is our DDC team integrating with the first team. But before I get into that, please like, comment, and subscribe. So the reason I'm having this conversation is because a lot of people were disappointed that Chiefs never got a chance to. It's a rumor that our captain of the DDC now signed for TS Galaxy, and a lot of people are saying Chiefs is gonna regret this. Chiefs doesn't know how to take care of its talent. They've lost Abu Omega Mdaga, they have lost Abu Puso Ditejani, and all of those things. So now my question is this: realistically speaking, does it make sense do we think that a DDC player can be ready for Kaizer Chiefs first team as quick as we think they will be? Because looking at the current crop of players that were playing in our DDC and looking at what Kaizer Chiefs needs, do we objectively believe that these guys will make Chiefs better? Do we objectively think that there's a player in our DDC team that is going to turn heads, that is going to do their performance like 100 times better, that is going to be able by the end of next season to be a proper starter? Do we believe that? Because the reality is sometimes we have to ask ourselves this: how big of a difference is the DDC to the PSL? And that's where I come in, and I want to show you guys what people tend to not see. You guys tend to see the players that are doing well, but when we look at our DDC now, we talk about Kaizer Chiefs DDC, we can say yes, Duba is there, we can say Mdu Shabalala is there, but they really delivered the way we thought they would when we were watching them in DDC. And a lot of you will be asking, what do I mean? Guys, in reality, this is the reality that no one wants to talk about. The reality is this: when our players are in the DDC, some of the oldest players they're ever going to face are 22 years old. Maybe even 23, but a lot of them are going to be 22. But a big portion, maybe 70 to 80% of the players in the DDC are below 21 years old, maybe even 90%, or below 90 even feels small. But majority of the players are below 21 years old, and some of them are, and most of them are between the ages of 18 and 20. Let me say 17 and 20. That is what the DDC is mainly made out of. The DDC is mainly made out of 17-year-olds to 20-year-olds. Now, a lot of you will be asking yourselves, why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up to make you guys understand, Guti, being good while playing your peers doesn't mean you are good. And what do I mean by that? If you have played sports before, you will know this for sure. That when you played with your under 13 teammates, you guys were all playing there having fun, but you all knew Guti, you're not as good as under 14. When you improved to under 14, a lot of you knew you're not good enough for under 15. So you were playing within the range of your intanga zako, your peers, the people who are as small as you, as strong as you, as weak as you, whatever, as fast as you, etc. The people whose bodies aren't as developed, etc. For example, I'm saying this is because if I have to take a boy who is 13 years old and throw him into a game with under 18s, that boy will struggle, like hardcore. And that is what the difference between the DDC and the PSL is. When you throw a 17, 18, 19, and 20-year-old and say he must go and take on, let's say you put in a striker. You put a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old and tell him to go up against a 30-year-old. Do you know the amount of experience a 30-year-old has? Even if that 30-year-old is not even close to being as talented as that 20-year-old. But because this guy has experience, he will know how to intimidate or take the ball from that 20-year-old. And the 20-year-old will have to learn lessons that he has not been learning in the DDC. And that may take him a while. Why do you think right now If you want to see what I mean by this, look at Duba's career. Duba is the one I want to speak about because of how the transition happened this year. Duba is that player who was struggling with the physicality of the game, but he had the pace to match. But the physicality of the game he was struggling with it. Until Nabi this season came and was putting the boy in positions where he was forced to do the more defensive side of the football. And because Duba was exposed to the more defensive side, he had to become more aggressive. And the more he came more and more aggressive, when he eventually started playing as a striker, he was no longer struggling with the centre backs because he started having an element of arrogance. He would push them aside. He would treat them as if it's his peers. And that's where the difference in his game started showing. He stopped fearing the strength of these older players. So then I'm getting to this because there's one thing that's been clear to me, and I've been saying our DDC players, they don't look PSL ready. It's like a lot of the players, especially Kaizer Chiefs. Let me talk for a team setup like Kaizer Chiefs. A lot of these players, it seems like they take 3 years to adjust to senior football. They don't just automatically enter the Chiefs squad and do instantly well. And when I say 3 years, I mean like 3 years to show that this person can command a starting berth. Because one could argue that, but Mfundo Vilakazi has been scoring. But Mfundo Vilakazi fails to play games consistently. And some of you are going to say, because Nabi is not playing. No, Nabi has given Mfundo starts. And in the games where Nabi gave Mfundo a chance to start, Mfundo did not do well. And that's the consistency. Mfundo would score a goal, Nabi would take a chance on Mfundo, start him the next game, and Mfundo would just disappear in the game. And that's just because of that consistency, that element of being able to hold your professional cap every game and play better than the players and not get outmuscled. Mfundo in this season, the things that people don't want to talk about is that he's been outmuscled by a lot of players. He's been outmuscled by a lot of players in the PSL. He has struggled with the physicality of these guys who are bigger than him. He has struggled because in the PSL, you don't often play talented people. You play people who are here to work. And because you're playing people who are here to work, these people are going to be rough because they don't want you to succeed. If you succeed, you are taking their bread and butter. So that's what Mfundo plays with. Unlike, because a lot of you will say Mfundo Vilakazi Mara was playing against old people in Kasi football. And then I'll argue this to you. Guti, in Kasi football, can you compare Kasi football to PSL structured football? Because in Kasi football, when Mfundo Vilakazi is busy doing his tricks and stuff like that, he's doing them alone and oftentimes he's doing them at the back. And then after he's done all his skills, whatever, he passes backwards. Or he passes a fancy pass going forward. But when it's time for him to go shoulder to shoulder, you will never see that. Because in Kasi football, you don't really see that physical battle. You more see it when you get to the PSL. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. To say, when I look at the current squad, the only players who I think could have a real chance at our playing in the first team, I think it's going to be the goalkeepers. Unaftal and Utakalani, they seem like the ones who are ready. One could argue Naledi Shongwane could be ready. I personally believe Uneo Bushoko should not be playing DDC for this long. He needs to get a taste of senior football, despite him only being 17. I think he's ready for getting a taste of PSL football. Because my problem with Neo Bushoko is this. There's something that happens when you have a talented player and you hold his progress back. When you hold sometimes these talented players to progress back, they start to adjust to the levels of their peers. So that's why, for example, if Barcelona held Lamine Yamal back in the under 18s and all these things, you would find good, he would learn bad habits playing with these guys. You would find that he would start learning bad habits playing with under 18. Like Lamal is like, what, 17 this year. If he continued to play with 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, you would find he would just start to learn bad habits. And it's not that he wouldn't outgrow bad habits. It's just to say, if you leave a player, a talented player, playing amongst people who have bad habits, that player will adopt those bad habits and it will take them longer. You'll find that when he starts flourishing, once he makes his debut for Barcelona, you only see his real potential at the ages of like 22, 23. Whereas now, Yamal is 20 years ahead of, 5 years ahead of his peers. The way he's performing now, Yamal, at 17, it feels like he's 23. It feels he's playing like someone who is in his peak. And it's scary to compare Yamal, but that is exactly what's happening. We have a 17-year-old who's playing at a level where you would swear he's playing at his 23-year-old peak. Like Abo Messi and them who started peaking at 22, 23. You would swear Yamal is there, but he's not. Because even you can see he hasn't started scoring a lot of goals like he will in the future. Yamal probably will hit 50 goals in a season, in a league, like fetching Messi's records. He'll probably be that kind of player one day. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Neo Buhloko. And another one is, I think it's Matlala. He's a left wing. I think that boy should definitely train. And is it Ngwesa? I think it's Ngwesa. I might be pronouncing. I think he's a left back. Those are the ones who I've seen who I don't think all of them would be ready for consistent senior team football. But I don't think they should continue in DDC. I think those players that I mentioned, they should not continue in DDC. And if Chiefs does not have a plan for Abokumete, Mabaso, those kind of players, I think those kind of players need to find teams outside of Kaizer Chiefs, because those guys have been at Chiefs for too long. And Amakhosi and all these players, I think these guys, they definitely need to find new teams if they don't find themselves training or being with the first team, because a lot of them now are 21, 22. So yeah, they I don't think it's they're at that point in their careers where they shouldn't be wasting time. Tell me what you guys think about this, Amakhosi.